Hey!
Spooky.
Hello, and welcome to Alpha Book Club, and happy Nerdoween!
Yay!
Yay! I'm so excited, and we're in a spooky set right now.
Spooky, scary.
Yeah,
So it's
looks like someone died
boys
in
becoming
here.
men,
Men becoming
wolves.
wolves. Yes.
Joining me as usual are my favorite people, Geek and Sundry's Hector Navarro.
What's that?
And no, the month is over.
Huh? Okay.
And Geek Bomb's Maud Garrett.
Hi guys, I will not say what's up in any capacity with my tongue outside of my face.
All right, let me try it again. Happy Hollow Wazza.
You tricked us.
I gotcha. That's right.
Oh, how dare you.
Oh, we got wine again!
Yeah,
Yes,
let's get this going.
Halloween!
Halloween.
Halloween! Could have done Halloween, but went with
Halloween.
Halloween.
Halloween. Woo! Can't we talk about this book?
We're
Yeah.
so excited. Welcome to our Alpha community. We're so thrilled that you're with us reading Thrillers this month. We're excited to talk to you. It's October. It's my favorite time of year, and we're reading a murder mystery, and it's also the 1-year anniversary of Alpha Book Club.
What?
Y'all. I just
Right now,
realized
today?
as I was
Oh
saying
my
it,
goodness, guys.
October was our first month.
Okay, let's quickly and yet get the chatting in it as well.
Yes.
Even though we've got a lot to talk about, let's
Yeah.
all reflect on our favorite book of the year.
Oh my God!
good call.
First of all, can
Yeah.
we name them all? I remember the first one was House on
Haunted
Haunted
Hill.
Hill. Then Wrinkle in
Wrinkle in
Time.
Time. Get our wrinkle on.
Get our wrinkle on.
Then it was the Stephen King's Dark Tower.
Then it was Dark
Tower.
Tower. I'm gonna need some help from the producers.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting.
Ready Player
huh?
One.
Ready Player One.
Hitchhiker's
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
1984.
1984.
To Kill a
Fuck
Mockingbird.
that.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Uh,
Oh, that last one, the Robert, no, not the Magician's Apprentice.
oh,
Assassin's
Assassin's
Apprentice.
Thrawn.
Oh, American Gods.
Thrawn.
Thrawn, American
Thrawn.
Gods.
American Gods.
What was the one we just did? The Giver.
The
Oh,
Giver.
give a fuck.
That's 11, and now 12, and
Who
And
now
now
can
the book
get-
we're reading,
No,
right?
no, 'cause
There's
that's in October.
Who can guess the remaining
The last
book?
book we're missing.
shoot. Oh wait, wasn't it? We did.
Princess Bride.
Hey, Hector wins.
Oh, and don't forget bonus. We got
And we did
Martian
bonus.
Chronicles,
Martian
Chronicles.
Chronicles.
Old Man Logan.
Yes.
Wonder
comic
Woman.
book.
Hecate.
Yes.
Wonder Woman to
There you go.
Hecate. God
Hey,
damn. We
you
read
guys.
a lot.
Yeah, team.
We read a lot, and you guys read with us, and it's been such a great year. And
Yeah.
we love you guys so much. And
Aw.
that's so. I just
I love you
realized
guys so
as I
much.
said it. I know this
so
is
cool.
the.
How
we've said
fast
it
can we
before,
cry about
but
it? How fast can we cry about it?
Oh my God, so fast.
Well, there's wine here now. So.
I know.
I love you guys so much. I love reading and I love words. And
Wait.
it's,
I really
it's,
feel that
it's,
way.
I know. I do too. It's as a defense mechanism. I really feel that way as well. I don't know what my favorite one is. Maud, what's your favorite book that we've read so far? That's tough.
I was a big fan of American Gods.
Yeah.
I really liked sort of
a
the
good book.
contemporary fantasy element, and I also am a big fan of mythology. So sort of that intertwined was a lot of fun. And I mean, it was kind of interesting having a book that I loved so much, Ready Player One. My take on it evolved.
Oh, really?
So much. But because I read it the first
Sorry.
time as just a fun, empty kind of. Oh, for the tissues, that's cute. You know, peace out. This
Yeah.
was so much fun. And, oh my God, it's speaking to me in my core to actually have an
Yeah.
intelligent, intellectual
Yeah.
discussion about it and question a lot of things and go, wait a second. It's like watching The Phantom Menace when I was 13,
Yeah.
even though I was, I think, 1 when it came out. And, you know, going, this was Star Wars, this is amazing. And
So
then
many-
taking
yeah.
that time to be like, wait a goddamn second.
Yeah, that happens all the time. We're just getting more and more woke. We're getting woker and woker.
We are getting more
You
and
know?
more woke. I
Yeah.
do.
That's 2. That's
What?
2.
I
On the
can
list
still
of
say it.
bet. Nope.
I'm in my 30s. I can still say it. I can still
Oh
say
no,
woke.
yeah, no, you're past it.
This morning,
got
Maud.
6
This morning,
months
Maud. I woke up
Okay, that's fair.
and I was like, I'm so woke.
No.
Shit, I can't say it anymore. Can't say
Oh
it.
man,
That's
no,
a
it's
boundary.
too
But
late.
that's what it's like with like when you watch Back to the Future Part 2 these days, you go, oh, this is super racist. I forgot. I didn't
Yeah.
realize when I was
Yeah.
a kid. It's
What was the
super
rapey
racist.
one? The first or the second one?
The first one,
Yeah.
I mean,
super
they've
rapey.
Rapey
Yeah,
to
yep.
racist. What
Yeah.
a leaps and bounds. That's
or
so cool.
yeah, like the Revenge of the Nerds becoming a very
Ugh.
toxic mentality.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
I
the
watched
world,
Never Been Kissed on the plane back
Oh,
from
no.
Australia.
Was it a
And
problem?
it's like she went undercover, assumed a false identity,
Yep.
spied on people, literally wore a camera, and then the brother, to make her cool, said, yeah, we used to date, and she was like, a rocket in bed. And I was like, whoa!
I know. I feel bad because of all the teen movies of the 90s, my favorite one is Can't Hardly Wait. And I know that's a piece of shit movie, but I love it.
I love it
And I know there's really messed up
Your
ideas about
problematic
romance in it.
phase.
It is.
Yeah.
American
Yeah.
Pie. Yeah, your
It was
problematic
a different
phase.
time too,
It
and
was.
it's like we've learned so much. I've even like you said, but in a better way because we're not using that word anymore.
You should become more
Hector.
socially aware.
Yeah. There it
Yes.
is.
And but I think
Whoa.
too, from the very beginning, when we it was interesting because when we started and we were talking about Haunting of Hill House, and you hadn't really gotten
never
into
read horror.
anything horror
I've
or
never
scary
read horror.
before.
Yeah.
But we immediately kind of identified with different characters and we
Yeah.
brought in these very personal
Yeah.
feelings into it. And I felt like
Straight
that was
off the
such a
bat.
good way to kick
Yeah.
it in where we were like, oh, we're friends. We're
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
friends
that's
right
true.
now, like
Yeah.
day one. So that was really
Yeah.
awesome.
And
I
Rachel
really
and
love that,
Rachel and I
actually.
bonded over how unlike Maud we both are. But we were like, oh no, Maud's definitely the Catherine Zeta-Jones, and we're Eleanor. We're poor Eleanor.
We're Eleanor
That was like
crashing
immediately.
into a tree.
That
Yeah.
was so much fun. Yeah, crashing into a tree.
Spoiler alert if you haven't
What's
watched
been your
the
favorite
original
book,
ones.
Rachel? You're a big time reader.
I am a
big
big
time reader.
big
Big old
time-
bookworm.
Big time reader here. I think my favorite. It's hard to say my favorite book. I think the experiences were all very different. I think American Gods was probably my favorite book that we read because there was so much in it. It was so meaty and so much to talk about, and we're all big like mythology nerds.
Yeah.
But my favorite experience was probably The Princess Bride because we all loved the film so much and we came from our own point of bias and knowledge. And then
Yeah.
we had Carrie Ellis in here at the
Yeah, that's
end.
pretty cool.
Like, when-
Obvious highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Loved it.
was
Yeah, that was a
was
pretty
so
big deal.
cool.
Shit book. Great
And-
guest.
Shit book.
Yeah.
Great guest.
Well, and I feel like
great
we
book.
all kind of took different things from the book too.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like about this too. Like when you were out and we had The Giver and we'd been talking about it and you came back and you were like, no! And it just shifted the whole dynamic so much
Yeah.
and it made me think and I feel like, I don't know, I
I
think
feel
that's
like
part of
even
it.
even with books that I dislike or that I'm disliking, if we're talking about it,
There
our
is a
discussion doesn't make me like hate it more. It makes me appreciate what the book is. For books that I'm really digging, the discussions a lot of the times with you two guys will make me appreciate the book way more. Or even a book I'm not totally on board with, we'll have a talk about it. Something like 1984, something like Dark Tower. If I'm struggling with it, we'll come in and talk about it, and I'll be like, "Fuck, this is really cool.
happened?
This is really cool." Yeah, no, just what happened.
Yeah,
but
tell me what happened here. I want to hear from the chat too. What was your favorite book
Yeah.
that you read so far? If you've been with us since the beginning, we want to hear about that. And if you're just joining us or you just joined us
Yeah.
a couple months ago, you can actually go back and watch the previous episodes
Oh, nice.
on Alpha and the different seasons and read along with us.
Definitely recommend The
back
Dark
in time.
Tower.
Yeah,
was
Dark
still-
Tower
that was great. I loved that one.
Did you guys ever see that movie?
No,
I haven't yet either. I'm waiting for it to come
I'm
out on
waiting. Me
DVD.
too. What
I'll
was
watch it
your
on a
favorite
plane.
book? And in the chat, let us know your favorite so we can
I
get
think
to you
my
guys.
favorite might have been Wrinkle in Time because it just set my imagination on fire a little bit, which is really cool. Which is that was one of my first like, guys, is this what books is? That's cool. I like what books is. I like to hallucinate.
Jones on too, remember?
Yeah.
Orlando Jones
yeah,
was such
from
a
Epic
American
delight.
Gods.
guest. I was smiling for
So
a week
cool.
Orlando
after that.
Jones should come back forever for every book.
You know what was
He
great about
loves
that is
Jerry,
that
too.
there was nobody who loved American Gods, the book, more than him. That's what was so
Yeah.
cool about it.
Yeah, he had known it for so long. But
Yeah.
to your point with A Wrinkle in Time, I like that we have your perspective, and we all love film and we all watch it, but coming in from reading a lot of books that have a film adaptation versus A Wrinkle in Time, which is going to get one, and you're going to see the other side of that
Yeah.
with something that
Yeah.
we're very excited about because it's Ava. We love
I know.
Ava.
Yeah.
There's
And
no way
Oprah
I'm
and
gonna.
everyone.
There's no way I'm gonna dislike the movie more than the book. There's no
Agreed.
way possible.
That's why I'm excited for the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to. It's like so different and so like stretched
Yes.
from the book.
And I
That's
think
true.
too, what we liked in the book were these themes and ideas
Yeah.
and the creativity and the world building. And so I think like taking that
Did you mean to drink your wine like that?
Huh? How did I drink it weird? I drink it weird?
I'm gonna have to do it with water because I have
What?
a feeling I'll spill it on myself.
What's the
But
matter?
You just did. Can we get a nice thank you? It was kind of like
This is apparently how Hector drinks water.
but you spat half of it back into your cup.
Really? Really? My mouth gets that big? Look at that mess you made. There's no way. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
So anyway, that was fun.
Okay, in
Yeah,
the chat,
that.
in the chat we have Lost the Numbers. Alpha Book Club helped me get through Assassin's Apprentice.
Yeah, I reckon.
You're right there with you.
Ah.
I heard so many great things. I feel responsible, but that's fun. We all go through it together, you know.
Thierry says
yeah.
Ready Player One, then American Gods. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool,
DeMarco
cool.
said Thrawn. That was a fun one too.
It was boring, but I loved that book.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
character was interesting.
So
even
interesting.
If the
I got a
plot was
Thrawn
like-
action figure. I got a
did?
Thrawn
Look at
action.
that.
Now I feel like I can be one of those Star Wars nerds that's like, I know all about Thrawn and like love the character of Grand
Yeah.
Admiral Thrawn. You know what I mean? I could-
Actually, in canon.
Yeah.
I'm actually familiar with his adventure in canon. Yeah.
the chess.
We should do the original Thrawn trilogy
would be so
on this
dope.
show sometime. I mean, that one
I would
is
be down for
good,
that.
but the original is.
I want to make you
good.
guys read a crappy, awesome old Star Trek novel. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted. I mean,
I'm down.
I mean,
man.
That's what book club's
BComp
all
gave me
about.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make you guys do that. That'd be great.
But now this book is a very different feel altogether. It's
I
not
guess
a
kill
mandatory.
the buzz here,
No,
Maud.
thanks
Let's
for
get into
bringing
it.
back,
But it's
okay.
not. It's not a mandatory text that's
Yes.
in secondary or primary schools. It's not.
It's not sci-fi or fantasy.
It's not sci-fi.
And what a
fantasy.
departure from
It's very modern.
from The Giver, which is for young kids.
Yeah.
And you finish a chapter in 8 seconds.
Yes.
To go
Oh,
from
yes.
that to be like, oh, hi,
Yes.
here's a book about adults written by adults for adults.
Yeah.
I still think The
Awesome.
Dark Tower was the most difficult for me to read. I had to read every sentence almost twice.
Yeah.
1984 for me, but okay, it's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one, like, yeah, it is. It's an adult book.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, they talk about fucking.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking.
So first, while we have to dive into it, we have to introduce the book. So this month's book, if you're just joining us, is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I'm gonna say it right, I
Yeah.
swear. She also wrote Dark Places and Sharp Objects, which
I'd read 'em.
highly,
I'd read 'em.
highly recommend.
Murder mysteries as well?
They are
Or
sort of.
perspectives?
Dark Places is about. I recommended all three of them, and I thought that she had a new book. I read them very quickly because I read this and then I saw them before the movie. I wanted to read it before the movie, and then I read her other ones. And she released like a short story, and I thought it was a book, and I got it on my Kindle and I read it in like 2 seconds. And I'm like, oh, curses! But the other Dark Places is about a woman whose entire family was murdered. Everyone thinks her brother did it. He's been in
Sad.
prison for years. She's been living kind of off the fame, the sad fame of that. And then this group of like people who are obsessed with solving murders who think her brother is innocent hire her, and she's broke now, to figure out what happened and to interview her. That one's really good.
Similar themes.
Yeah, a lot of similar themes. And Sharp Objects is about a woman, I believe she's a journalist, if I remember correctly, who left her town and it's got some mommy issues in it, and a girl goes missing in her town and she has to go back and figure out what happened.
I have a feeling
Similar
there's
themes.
a lot of, like it's all kind of revolves around writers, and so she
Yes.
almost places herself in.
And not
these
just
little-
writers, but because Gillian Flynn was a writer for Entertainment Weekly, she was a critic
You're right.
for Entertainment Weekly. There's a lot of
For
pop
years and
culture,
years,
Yeah,
yeah.
pop culture, and sort of just wrestling, like tackling the idea of fame and the good and bad of it, which I think is fascinating. That Gillian's like she's getting into it with how she feels about fame, and she's attaching it to how we all sort of get swept up in whenever a beautiful blonde white woman goes missing in the country, like that level of fame.
Yeah.
But it's still, I feel like you can see her tying things to the entertainment industry.
And also to writing itself, I think you have
Yeah.
both of these people who are writers in different ways.
They're so clever.
And even though, and I want to, there's so much to get into
Same,
here,
yeah.
but their perspectives, what I really like, it's hard to write two characters' perspectives in a book.
Agreed.
Without it sounding the same.
They feel
And what
so
I like
different.
is that they feel really different, but they both feel like they're too smart and they're too wordy,
Yeah.
but in totally different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like that Nick's version of that is, oh, well, I was a writer before the internet, and now the internet's too fast. And you can feel her experiences trying to
Yeah.
wrestle with this type of writing versus internet writing versus essay writing. There's all different sorts.
And we
So
have
that's
to,
fascinating.
we got to mention this. Lost the Number says the movie is so good.
Yes.
I think it really helps me with reading the book.
I agree.
And there's a little discussion about the movie that's happening in the chat right now.
Yeah, so the
So-
movie is directed by David Fincher. It's so good. It's one of my favorite book to
It's a freaking,
film
it's a freaking
adaptations.
fantastic film. Yeah,
The
it's really
changes
good.
that they make sense, but everything feels very spot on. And I have to say, the casting for this movie, you
Perfect
guys.
casting.
What did you?
Perfect
Hector,
casting.
Tell us why it's so perfect.
I almost want to like find the
Yeah.
section that describes Nick Dunn, but I don't know if he describes himself or if it's probably Amy Elliott in January 8th of 2005 when she
Yeah.
describes Nick.
Her first section.
Her first little section when she talks about he's the kind of guy who carries himself like he gets laid a lot, a guy who likes women, a guy who would actually fuck me properly. I would like to be fucked properly. Okay, maybe not that part. Let me look for the part.
We're all adults
Let's
here.
see here.
Are there any kids in the chat?
Looking
Whoopsies,
for
F-bombs.
the PG-13 book
the
this
description of him. Distractingly gorgeous, the kind of looks that make your eyes pinwheel, that make you want to just address the elephant. You know you're gorgeous, right? And then move on with the conversation. He doesn't act that way, though. He, oh man. Oh, here we go. Here, I got it.
Yay.
I bet dudes hate him, : He looks like the rich boy villain in an 80s teen
Yes.
movie. The one who bullies a sensitive misfit. The one who will end up with a pie in the puss, the whipped cream, wilting his upturned collar as everyone in the cafeteria cheers. I mean, that's perfect casting
Yeah.
for Ben Affleck. When the book
If not Ben
basically
Affleck, Robert
describes
Downey
him.
Jr., who actually played, was it in Weird
Yeah.
Science? He was
Yeah.
like the jock
was that
from
guy.
the 80s.
Or
But-
Andrew McCarthy.
But Ben Affleck has this, like, I mean, the whole story, Nick Dunn is so detached from everything. And you learn that he's detached because his father was detached, because
Yeah.
of the home life that he grew up in.
Super
but he has,
misogynistic because of it, yeah.
yeah, he has this attitude that is so, like, I can't express my emotions, I can't. And this is not a knock on Ben Affleck because I think he is a phenomenal director and an incredible actor. But I also kind of think he's kind of a dick in real life. And that's not necessarily a bad thing all the time. I mean, it's tough to be Ben Affleck. The dude was in Reindeer Games. Like, he knows how to make, do you know what I mean? Like, he knows how to make fun of himself, but he still, I think, is Ben Affleck. And it's like, he deals with a lot of shit, is what I'm saying. But I still think he is still is this kind of Boston guy. He's just kind of a masshole. That's who he is.
Yeah.
And the casting for this character is, I mean, I've heard reports that, like, he could just kind of a difficult guy to work with, and he was maybe even a little distracted when he was filming this very movie. And that's such perfect casting then. It's
Yeah.
like, that's great because, you know, but yeah, that's just like rumors and stuff that you hear, you're like, oh, that's too bad.
Fincher talks about it on the commentary.
On the commentary for Gone
Yeah.
Girl, he talks about how he's always looking at his cell phone.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, that's what Nick's doing.
They shut down production for 4 days over the baseball cap.
Over the
Yeah,
baseball because
so,
he didn't
yeah.
want to wear a Yankees cap.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of hilarious.
He's a Sox fan or something?
But it's because he's and that is one of the biggest long-standing rivalries in American sports history.
yeah,
but
no
it's
idea.
still like that's also the douchiest thing
It's
ever to
also
shut
you're
down
at work,
production
get over it.
for days.
You're at
I
work,
mean,
you're
it's
getting
so
paid.
funny.
Yeah,
and I
it's-
you know, I don't know. I feel for him because on the one hand he's Batman and that's the coolest thing ever, and you can tell that he loves that he's Batman. But on the other hand, he also hates that he's Batman because he will be incessantly asked about Batman for the rest of his life. So when I hear rumors that like he wants to not be Batman, I'm like, I get it. And then it's like, well, he's like, no, it's rumors, man. I want to keep playing Batman. I also get that too because like that's a rad thing that he gets to do. But yeah, it's just anyway, it's just perfect casting.
He also seems like there is that level to him, but that he's conflicted, and that something else is going on with him, which I'm sure helps his work and helps him tap into all of these characters that he's played. And I also love Rosamund Pike, who I just think is excellent in the film. And if you guys have seen it, this
so
book
great in the
has a
movie.
really great structure of the diary and the first person perspective for them. And you get two very different Amy's when you first get to know the characters in this section, where Nick's version of Amy is this like ice queen and nothing is good enough for her, and it feels like he's projecting a lot of his own insecurities onto her because she has money, because she's beautiful, because
a lot of
he's
resentment, yeah.
losing that. But hers, and granted it's a few years before, and so maybe something happened to her, but hers is, yes, clever, and yes, dry and biting, and I actually quite like that diary version of her in the beginning with the quizzes where she plays the breezy person, but inside is just like, fuck you. I like that a little bit.
She's basically like saying and documenting that she is the perfect girlfriend when they mock the what is it, the monkey behavior.
The monkey boyfriend thing. Yeah. Do this,
It's
do
like
that.
the- yeah. And I kind of think it's funny where it's like, no, I'm just the kind of girl that likes my whiskey and just to chill out and we have sex and it's like, I don't even care if he wants to go out and drink with his mates, totally fine.
Yeah, and then when it's interesting.
no, you're not.
When
Yeah.
she, especially
If
because
you're writing
then
it
later,
down in a diary, no, you're not cool with it. You're definitely not cool with it.
Well, then later when she does get upset, she's like, and it's interesting how female this is, and I was like, fuck you, Amy. Like,
Yep.
you're like putting this on yourself when you are smarter than that, and you don't need to do that. We know you're smarter than that.
There's so many layers, and what I love, and I think having watched the movie is putting a magnifying glass to the clues, because as I'm reading, it's just like, she's really manipulative. She really loves games, especially mind games,
Yeah.
you know, and it's
Yeah.
spelling it out so clearly, the type of potential this woman has. But, you know, these little contradictions that happen all the time because of this past and present motion. And I really love that about the story. You've got present dialogue, and the whole story from Nick's side is written in present tense. And you rarely ever read books set in present tense anymore. It's always reflecting back. It's always like a journal entry. It's
of
always this is what
omnipresent.
yeah. But this one is, I walk up to the bar, I grab a drink, I'm like, and
Yeah.
it's currently in the motion of it all. And then to have Amy's entry from, yes, a long time ago, which is kind of melding and piecing things together, but having that written in not only things that were happening back then, but even prior to that. So you've got such past tense happening as well. And you're right, like the way that Gillian has written this book, you think you can really figure this person out, but then something else will happen. You're like, oh, okay, that really caught me
Totally.
off. Like I haven't figured this out at all.
You can't trust either of them. right?
Exactly.
Because if you've seen the movie, you know. If you haven't, we won't spoil it for you. Things are more complicated maybe than they seem, because this is a twisty mystery.
She constantly leaves you in the dark, and she'll dangle a carrot, and then
Yeah.
it'll get, you know,
A
completely
carrot
disarray
like
you.
Ben Affleck's character Nick. Ben Affleck, he's not in the book, but Nick will say something like,
I'm seeing him in my head. So
yeah,
it's
of
okay.
course, basically. So in the book, he'll say, when he's talking to the police, you know, she had a master's degree, and then he'll say, I
Yeah.
can't believe I slipped up like that. Anyway, and then keep going, and you're
Well,
like,
he's
whoa.
an unreliable narrator too.
He's
Yeah.
a very unreliable narrator.
And then it's like,
And
we explain
they're
this.
both unreliable
Have you ever
narrators.
seen this before, or have you heard about this before?
No, I haven't.
No, I lied.
And it was
Yeah.
I was just getting
That was
started.
the first of. That was my fifth lie to the police, and you're like, oh,
What is
Yeah.
going on?
Up to this
Yeah.
point in the book, just
Yeah.
like when you watch the film, up to this point, you don't know if he is guilty or not.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's the point of this book. And Gillian, and here's what helps me, Maud, is that it's
Gone Girl.
Gilligan's Island, not Gilligan's Island. That's what helps me. Gillian.
Oh, I like Gilligan
But
Gone
there's-
Girl.
Gillian Gone Girl.
Yeah, but there is. You can say
not John
Jillian
Jill.
with a G.
I know you can, but you can't say
can't say-
Gilligan's Island.
but you can't
That's
say
what helps me. That's
John
all I'm saying.
Jill.
John Jill. That's true.
I like Gone
Gilligan
Girl,
Gone Girl.
Gillian
That's
is
right.
the one.
Gillian Gone Girl. That's right. But what I love is that is up to this point. I mean, I feel like that's the point of this book. That's the point of this thriller. That's the point of this movie. It's a page turner, and you're like, what's going on? And Flynn is killing it, man.
Yeah.
Up to this point, you don't know what's going on.
And I think another like layer to that is the media circus that
Yes.
comes around when a beautiful blonde white woman goes missing versus many other types of people who go missing or are hurt or murdered all the time. But also there are a lot of gender politics in this book about expectation about who's supposed to have the money, who's supposed to be the breadwinner, even
Yeah.
when they talk about, and sort of the pressure that can put on someone even if they don't buy into that, it can affect you. But with the anniversary surprises where, gosh, let me see if I can find it.
Oh, you got a lot of highlighting going on.
Oh yeah, well I love the language in this book.
It's really good.
It's beautiful. It says, here's the mind games part. They're talking about the treasure hunt on page 18. There's two in here in just that section. So don't let her worry you. Go lit a cigarette. She smoked exactly one a day. Women are crazy. Go didn't consider herself part of the general category of women, a word she used derisively. Then later, treasure hunt. My wife loved games, mostly mind games, but also actual games of amusement. And for our anniversary, she always set up an elaborate treasure hunt with each clue leading to the hiding place of the next clue until I reached the end and my present. It was what her dad always did for her mom on their anniversary, and don't think I don't see the gender roles here, that I don't get the hint. That
Wow.
is there throughout the book, that she has the money, and even though we find out later that the parents are borrowing from the trust and that they both lost their jobs and things are so much more complicated than who has the money and who has the power, but it really gets him. And it also gets her that she doesn't want someone to find her just for money. She wants someone to see her. She wants someone to get it. She
Yes.
feels like they get each other. And for a while they do, and now they don't, and we don't know why, and we don't know what happened
Oh,
to
I know
her.
why.
There's there's such a nice little parallel as well between the relationship, not only between each other, Amy and Nick, but their parents as well. And it was interesting having this correlation of don't think I can't see that she's basically her parents, and I, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, that's not a hint that I can see. But then when Amy in a journal later is talking about what's it, Desi, saying, you know, how eerie and disturbed almost she felt when she met Desi's mother, who was a spitting image of him in a way, and how the mother was threatened by Amy's involvement in her son's life.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
didn't pick up on any of that.
just as you were reading that, I'm just like, holy
Yeah.
shit, it's so layered and it's so well done and it's chock
Oh, yeah.
full of everything. But I think what I really get from this book is every other time you only have one perspective, and so you find yourself following the behaviour, the patterns, and putting yourself in the mindset of your protagonist.
Narrator, protagonist, right?
But what's happening in this book is that you are constantly having a wish-wash understanding of, do I even like these people? Because someone actually mentioned in the chat earlier about the conversation and the reasoning behind calling the bar the bar. And it was like, oh, you're a wanker. It's like, oh, you know, we just wanted to call it the bar because it was like satire and no one's going to get it. And then someone walked in the book into the bar and
Yeah.
they were like, oh, it's like Breakfast at Tiffany's,
Yep.
you know, where she calls cat. And it's like, oh, and I felt lesser because someone else got it. But then it's like, but that's the point. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you're so unlikable. That's such a shit thing to say. And there's always little things like that, you know, with Nick's character going, oh, it's my father. But I find myself also just thinking, bitch,
Yeah.
bitch.
Ugh.
And I'm in a mood right now where I just want a woman to make me a sandwich. Triggered. Oh my. It's like the amount of times I've been told to get in the kitchen and make someone a sandwich. It's like,
Oh yeah, because
you
you're a
can't stand
woman
the
on the
heat, get
internet.
out of
Sorry.
the kitchen. I'm gone.
Yeah.
So,
And it's they're unlikable, and they both think they're so fucking smart.
Yeah.
When she's right,
That's the
and
worst.
I,
They're
I,
insufferable people.
They're
They are
they're
so
terrible,
insufferable.
and that's why it feels like you recognize why they liked each other, because they're so full.
Yeah,
they
that's
both
true.
think they're so smart, and
pompous,
they're looking for
yeah.
someone who's
On their level.
as beautiful as them, that's as
Well,
smart as
I
them.
think that Nick's sister.
But I like how shitty they are. I like unlikable characters because I
Ugh,
feel
it's tough.
I definitely like Amy more than I like Nick, because Nick is a misogynist.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
that's a
that's
big
harder
deal
for
breaker
me to
But
like.
I think Amy's a liar.
She is a liar.
I think that even her early journal entries where she's talking about how much she fell in love with this guy, and even when she's talking about picking up after Nick when he becomes this horrible slob after he loses
I was
his
disgruntled
job.
by that. Yeah,
I
again,
was
Nick, I'm like,
just
cross.
just because we're getting sort of Nick's perspective at the same time, I can't help but read both of their journal entries as like false. As
Yeah.
like, well, you don't have the complete story. This
Yeah.
is just your side of the story. And with Amy, I feel like it's all for show. Amy is this person who she comes from money, she comes from like a sweet setup, and she pretends as though she is away from it. And she talks about how, well, she works, I work. And other women in my position, they wouldn't even, I would love to just not work, but I work. And my parents gave me a trust fund, but only enough to still have to work in New York and to do this and do that. And I feel like it's all bullshit. She has this entire journal entry about how heartbroken she was when she, how heartbroken she was with the anniversary that Nick blew off. But the fact that all of his friends got laid off. But even before that, there's a journal entry that I think is really important where she talks about how she's not like a regular girlfriend. She's like a cool girlfriend
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she doesn't get mad at the fact that Nick blew her off again.
Yeah.
With
For a dinner with her friends, where it's like, is that
Yes.
the one where it's like, of anyone would, it doesn't matter what anyone
not a
would be
bi-
upset. It's not true.
she's obviously upset. And she also tries to admit, like, well, I'm not really upset because I don't really even care about my friends. It's not that big a deal. Nick came home and we made up and then had sex and it's great. And poor us. We have such a great relationship. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're full of crap.
Yeah.
And she is somebody who cares so much about status.
Yep.
And she is somebody who cares so much about not being amazing Amy. And so
a whole other
I
level
can't
to
help but
this.
think that she is a person, a human being who is so full of shit. She thinks she's smarter than everybody. She comes from New York and she moves to Missouri and hates everything in Missouri.
Yep.
And at first, as I was reading the book, I was like, well, I get how frustrated she would be because that's such a tough thing. But then as again, you learn more about the characters and the city and the town or whatever, you're like, well, F you, Amy. You're not better than people that are living in this town. You know what I mean? And both her and Nick have this attitude. So to me, they're both insufferable people.
They are.
I'll talk about this more when we get to the end of the story/movie, but
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see the movie again. I have deep problems with this film and the book and the story. Huge problems, but they're both super quality, but they're just not for me. And I think it boils down to they're both asshole people
Yeah.
that I don't want to spend any time with. And it's the same reason I gave up on Game of Thrones after a season. It's the same reason I gave up on Mad Men after a season. It's the same reason I
You
gave
just
up
offended
on
both of us
on
equally with different.
I know.
Mad Men
What was
is
the other one?
so
Entourage
good.
after a season.
That's
I get, but I gave
Okay,
all three of them a
Entourage is
shot
fine.
of like, let me give them all a shot,
Game of
and they
Thrones?
do
Well,
different. Yeah, they do
Mad Men
different
is the
things.
best show of all time.
They
But
do
I-
different things, but still, it's the best show of all time. Following an asshole character in that first season.
Okay. Right.
Don Draper's a piece of shit.
Yes,
Who's the
I-
asshole in Game
he's-
of Thrones?
Everyone is an
Everyone.
asshole in Game of Thrones except for the guy who gets his head lopped off. Like that's literally season 1. Everyone's a
Okay.
piece of shit, and everyone's telling me, "Well, hey, well, you got to give it 6 seasons, and then the character you hate will get theirs." And I'm like, "Well, I don't
No.
want to do that." But
So,
Mad Men,
I-
yeah.
well, I will just say because I could talk all day about Mad Men, so I won't do that. But if you want to talk to me about it on Twitter, just. Do it.
But
I
they're
will
great-
say
they're
that
great fucking
he's-
shows. They're
he's
so
the
good.
Villain.
Yes.
It's just that people don't necessarily pick up on that and they think he's cool.
Sure.
I believe that story is actually about the women in the show and them succeeding
right.
succeeding throughout it. However, I will say I agree with you. I think they're super unlikable. I think what I like about Amy is that we don't get to see, like, we've seen Nick's before. I've seen Nick a
Totally.
million times.
Totally, and we've seen missing wives before in stories
I
and
don't
movies
feel
and
like
books.
we've
Big old
seen
dick.
an Amy before in something this big, and I like that there's
You're right.
space for a woman to be a piece of shit and smart and all
Mm-hmm.
of these things in this space and get as much of that as Nick. And I feel like I don't see that a lot. And so I
Yeah.
like when I joke about like Ursula and Nerdist News Talks Back because I love Ursula and just more
she's
unfortunate souls.
fantastic.
But I love female villains because I feel like
There's not enough of them.
it's the same argument about like strong female characters and how there's only one way to be a strong female character.
To be like a buff lady.
Yeah, she's strong, she's brave,
Yeah,
she's
she
good.
wears the pants.
There's no like there's no anti-hero that's like vulnerable and makes
Mm-hmm.
the wrong choice and maybe is a little bit selfish and that's maybe Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, that's a good one. But that's
Oh
why I
yeah,
like
but that's a whole nother
Yeah.
bag. Oh man. Oh, I
But-
love her, but she what a
yeah.
set it off. That's great. Wonder
Yeah.
Woman is very vulnerable, but she's still also beautiful, right? But also Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor is a terrible mother.
Yeah.
But man, what a great, well-rounded character. I
Yes,
love that
you
character.
get to have
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are different versions. That's the thing. There's not just one.
Exactly.
We resonate with different characters.
Exactly.
And so, but I agree with you. I think that they're terrible people, and we will get into the end
Oh, man.
I'm
Ooh.
interested.
Such big problems. I cannot wait. I
There's
can't
a
wait.
lot. Well, it's interesting because as we get into it, I don't know that there's a ton of differences yet
So far, no.
from the book, but there are eventually.
Got it.
So, but what about some of the other characters? What about Go? How do you feel about the casting of Go? And B, what do you think about sort of their relationship so far?
So I actually haven't. I'm not wanting to watch the movie again until I've read a
I'm
chunk
gonna wait
of this.
too, yeah.
I might do it soon. I might
Wait
because
till the end.
because reading this, I had to look up the actress who played Margot Dunn. I had to look her up.
Carrie Coon, and she's fucking amazing.
And what else is she in? She's in Fargo, the
The
show.
Leftovers.
She's in The Leftovers.
She's
in
so,
stuff I'm not.
She should have been
Which one
nominated.
is she in the Leftovers?
She's the main.
Oh,
she's
the wife.
Yeah.
Right. What?
No,
Judge Judy?
she's the one
Judge
who
Amy?
loses. No, she's the one who loses her whole family.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Got
see,
it.
I got to rewatch. I thought she did a great job, but I couldn't like picture her. I saw the movie in like 2015
Yeah,
or whatever, 2 years ago.
yeah.
I couldn't picture it in my head. When I looked her up, I don't know why I was like almost picturing like a Joan Cusack, maybe just because John
Oh,
and
yeah,
Joan, like
yeah.
the fact that they're twins. But John and Joan aren't
Yeah.
twins, are they? Or are they? No, they're just
think
siblings, right? They're
she's
just
older.
siblings. Thanks. But anyway, I think the casting is fine. But I want to rewatch the movie so that I can
Yeah.
like refresh her
No, make it up.
Yeah,
performance.
I like
Piece it together.
I
together.
like Margot in this because I feel like she's the only character that gets to call Nick out on his shit that he won't have that reaction to, and it's maybe because he feels like she's a part of him, and so there's a little bit of weird.
Yeah, the weird
like,
part I don't get.
self-centered-
Yeah, this is a weird part. Go ahead, Mom.
Well, I mean, I've got two brothers, and I
Okay.
don't have entirely close relationships with them. So kind
Yeah.
of having that banter, I was like, oh, I can't place myself as
Sure.
Margot in
Yeah.
this. But every other part, I kind of can. And
Yeah.
it's the person where it's like, you know what, I'm not going to say the things that you want to hear because,
Yeah.
you know, the fact that she doesn't like Amy, it's like totally like if you're going
And
to
Amy was
clash,
right because Amy said to Nick when they were like in their relationship, I think the last thing she said to her or one of the things she said to her was like, Amy might just be in love with the idea of you as opposed to being in love with you. And that is their relationship to a T.
Yes.
They were
Which is
both
why-
in love with the idea of one
Exactly,
another.
and that's why their expectations
Which is why this whole
constantly
thing is
let
fucked.
each other down.
This whole thing is fucked.
But what I love about this writing is that, you know, you're like, oh, this is a really great relationship. He's really grounded. He's treating his sister like his best friend. He has to be a good guy. But then they make it a bit weird, and she'll touch his nipple, or like, you know, they'll talk about fucking the other people.
Yeah, that's weird.
And that's it. So it goes over a sign. You're like, oh, this
Oh, the
looks
nipple thing was
safe.
weird. Let's talk about the nipple thing
She
for a
just
second.
hugged him and just put a thumb
The
on
nipple thing was like
You're
Nick
reading and you're
saying,
like,
Nick saying we're not good at hugging, so she gave him like the one arm hug
Yeah,
thing.
but then, boop.
But then he also was like, her left hand was like rested on my nipple when she came in for a hug.
That's it.
And here's the rest of the story. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait, why would you? Was that
So-
just him saying like they're not good at hugging, so that's why it was kind of weird, or was that like a weird sexual
So,
thing?
I think, I don't know, because we're only in his perspective, but I imagine that sometimes like people will bump you and you won't even notice because you're not thinking about it. I feel
I had
like
it
when
recently.
he's
Chris Hardwick's wife, I walked past and I, for the whole width of her butt, I'd grazed it with my hand. Yeah.
and it's like sometimes people, the other person doesn't notice because they're like,
Wait, hang on.
brush-
I'm so sorry, Rachel. Mom, can you explain? I don't understand. For the whole
I just
width
walked
of her.
past, and as my hand was going, like in my hand movement, it just literally grazed my hand just happened to be the same height as her butt. I touched the whole butt in my stride. And then immediately went,
How do you do that?
I've just touched your ass.
Oh,
and
you
then
did
looked
say
at
that,
Chris
yeah.
and went, I've just touched your wife's ass. I didn't mean to.
Good.
It was just the whole thing gonna go. I addressed it. I'm the kind of person that just addresses it.
that you
That's good.
address
That's the way to
it,
do it.
or like someone will be like, oh my god, I just, and you're like, oh, I didn't, it's cool. Him thinking that to me felt like, okay, his perception is
that just
maybe-
awkward?
But then she also is very open with him
Yeah.
about stuff where, and
Yeah, where she was like, whip your dick around or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
like she's very crass
would
and she's
never.
like one of the
Yeah.
dudes.
Talk to my
I think that's
professor.
very funny.
It is funny.
I would, but also my sister would not appreciate it. That's the difference.
But it's that
Is
thing where
I-
it's like
yeah.
75%, you're like, yeah, cool, that's really awesome. And then you're like, wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like with all the characters, when you know, think about how Amy's written and how Nick's written. I think the great example of Nick is the parallels is when they were both let go, how they were able to cope and deal with it. And I love that, you know, it happened to Nick a little while ago and he started off so positive and then was spiraling. And by the time it happened to Amy, he like barely acknowledged it. It was like almost not even a shrug. It was like, well, that sucks. And then she resents him for not being able to bounce back and to kind of like hold it. That's that kind of thing. But I think what we read up to, it's definitely skewed to the perception. So Amy's description is weighing harder about Nick than Nick's is about Amy, because Nick is in
I
a
get that.
vulnerable position and Amy is writing from a place of pure honesty with nothing threatened.
And Nick is somebody who doesn't have, even though he's a writer, he doesn't have the same affection, I guess, of memories as Amy does.
She
Well,
cherishes
he's shut
things.
down
she-
too. He's
what's that?
very emotionally shut
Yes.
down.
Yeah.
So if in the few moments he's talking to the police about his wife in this investigation, he doesn't have the same language and care that Amy does when they're talking about, we went to that one restaurant and you ordered that one thing and you said that one thing. It's like, that's next level shit. That's
Yeah.
next level. And I almost
expects him.
I feel bad for Nick because I also have the worst memory of anybody I've ever met in my life. But Nick will have said at some point, I don't know if it was in her journal or in his recounting, that just because he doesn't remember those kind of details doesn't mean he doesn't love their relationship or like is important to them and stuff. But yeah, that stuff is not, it doesn't seem as heavy as the weight that is Amy's words, because she is so precise. And so when she's talking
Super
about Nick
emotional.
lounging around the
so
house, you're like,
calculated.
she's so calculated and it's all so vivid and so real. And Nick is so like, I don't know, whatever, that stuff's not important. But it, so
She is so descriptive with her writing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can taste the liquid of the drink that they're, you know, and how they're drinking it and their demeanor. Like the way that she's writing is so descriptive that you can totally place yourself in it. But what I find fascinating with Nick in that scene, talking to the police, he's almost referencing every time he's seen this in a movie. Sound familiar, Hector? And how
Yeah, that's how I live
the
my life.
actors
Yep.
should be reacting or how they have reacted and trying to apply that to himself. So it's like, all right, I don't know why I'm not upset, but I know that when this happens in movies, people are upset, so I should probably be like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there are many different things that can happen to someone's mental and emotional state that can cause that disconnect.
Yeah.
One of them is depression. And I
Yeah.
know that like people have said either in their commentary on the book and the movie, like, oh, sociopath is like the go-to for that thing.
Yeah.
But disassociation when you are depressed, when you have been
just stop
laid off,
caring.
when your parent has died, when your marriage is falling apart,
Yeah.
that like not being able to bring yourself to emote the way that you're supposed to. I feel that from him, and I feel like you are supposed to wonder if he's guilty or not. So there
You
is
are.
that level of it. He's withholding some of that. Something is going on. He's being watched in the beginning. He's been seen. Something he's done has been seen. But he also can't bring himself, because it feels like he hates Amy now. So it's like he knows he should be worried. He knows something bad happened. Everything has been knocked over.
But he hates her.
But
There's discourse for sure.
But when they ask about him, or when he's supposed to call the parents, doesn't like the parents, doesn't care about the parents, doesn't really care about anything, went and had a beer at work, wandering through life, doesn't, he's
Yeah.
kind of going through the motions already. So when this happens, sometimes that can jog you out and you're like, oh shit, I have to react. He's not. And even to the point of the like initial press conference, he goes into automatic pilot, which is like, I know I'm unlikable. I know I have a super
And he
punchable,
tries to
handsome
smile.
face. And he smiles. And that shot in the movie
Yeah, it's
It's
perfect.
sticks
It's
in
so
my
great.
head
Yeah.
because
It's so
it's
great.
like,
Lost the,
oh,
um,
you
lost the number of that
dummy,
thing.
Yeah.
you beautiful dummy. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's great, and I
Yeah,
also
he's
think
getting
that
critical fail.
both
John
of
Hamm
these,
could have played this part too a little
Yeah.
bit, I think.
absolutely,
Because he's
Absolutely.
handsome and a nightmare, and you're like, I don't
Yeah.
care
he's
that
too
you're
handsome.
a nightmare because you're so handsome. It's
too
Anyway,
handsome.
I love John Hamm.
Do you
I
think,
think,
that maybe as someone reading the book, you, in this initial part of the book, you are more empathizing with Amy because she
Let's
is...
ask the chat.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about that.
Whose
side are you on?
Seen the movie?
I'm on neither side
Who's
because
read the book?
I think they're both assholes. But I'm so curious as to like how, as a reader, and I think we're all siding with Amy.
Well,
because
I
she's gone. What happened?
Well, I think
Yeah.
it's also because she's so emotional, and you can
Yes.
empathize with
And he's the
emotion,
opposite.
and he is giving you nothing.
I
And so
know.
you've got nothing to latch
And
onto.
that plays into the gender roles
It's
that
true.
they're talking about.
Yeah.
Even though what she says and what she thinks gives off the appearance that she's not like that. And it's Margot does the same thing, and everyone did it. I'm sure I did in high school where you're like, I'm not
Look
like
at that.
other
That's-
girls.
look at that
because-
shot. Look at that
Oh,
shot.
Yeah,
it's
he
beautiful.
smiled.
And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, just punch him a little bit. Just
Oh,
punch
he
him right
murdered
in
her.
the face.
He
And
did
she
it.
looks carefree and happy and has this softness to her. And
Well, it's
that's-
described in the book that it's like the most beautiful photo of her, and I
Yeah.
kind of love that he, describes that and says
Yeah.
that, and like when you have a movie, you just have to piece it together yourself. But when it's written out so eloquently, you're like, oh, here he is feeling inferior and going, of course, this is the most gorgeous photo of her. And so it's lovely having that kind of like perspective and context. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause it is a good
so
photo.
Pinkishly read the book, haven't seen the movie.
Interesting.
DeMarco
Pinkishly
read book,
also
seen
does
movie.
not like Ben Affleck as Nick at all. Can't really see it, but Pinkishly,
Ooh.
you and
Ooh.
when we were talking about
Ooh, you
Ben
gotta watch
Affleck
that
being
movie,
perfect,
Pinkishly.
Yeah, everyone should watch the movie at the
Yeah.
end, but everyone who, either if you've seen it or not, cast your characters for us, because that's always so
Ooh,
fun.
Plaguewin
who you
says
would-
neither for me. So for people that have not seen the film and are reading this for the first time, what
Yeah.
do you think is happening right now? Do you think that Nick did it? Do you think that Nick
Yeah.
is hiding something from us, the reader, with his and giving us little clues with the slip ups, with the
Ooh,
this
a
and
lot
the that?
of people haven't seen the movie.
You know.
This is fun. Okay.
Yeah, good,
I
good,
thought
good.
a lot of people would have, and I was
same,
a
and that would
little-
change our conversation completely.
That was disappointing me a little bit when we picked this, and now I totally regret even saying that, because reading it again, I was like, oh, the language is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's really great.
And the character
good
work
read.
is so good. It's such a good book. But I'm glad because we picked Murder Mystery, and as most of you know, I love mysteries and thrillers, so I wanted something that's like a whodunit, so it feels like we actually get. We're gonna
I
have
don't
a lot
think,
of that.
At one stage, you were describing Amy at this portion of the book that she was super unlikable and a little bit psychotic. What were you saying? That she was just not like mean or.
Insufferable,
There was something
Yeah.
that you were saying where she was
Think
just
she's
super,
smarter.
super manipulative.
very manipulative.
I was biased when I was saying that because I've seen the movie.
Yeah.
I actually don't think that she's that bad.
but it's
at
just
the
maybe
moment.
because we have seen
We're
the
completely
film and
influenced.
we've seen further into the story as to sort of what her life is.
I don't know. I feel like if you read between the lines in her experiences with him and say this
And it's not just her
victimization.
Yes, it's not just her experiences with Nick, I'm reading between the lines and I'm picking up what type of human being she is.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she does come from money, that just like Nick has massive insecurities, she has a lot of these insecurities that are driving her for competitiveness,
Yeah.
for this amazing Amy comparison.
that
Both of her
shadow. parents
parents are terrible human beings, that they created this whole thing, and they're both
Around her.
psychologists.
As a passive aggressive
As
way
a passive aggressive way to be like, we don't approve of your life decisions. Like,
Can
oh
you
my
imagine,
God. No, I
like,
cannot,
I
Rachel.
I quit the piano when I was 15 and I
Oof.
regret it. And I told my little brother when he
I
quit the
stopped
trumpet that
drumming.
he would regret it. He doesn't yet because he's only 17. But he
Well, the
will.
piano's way cooler than the trumpet. So.
No, the trumpet
Huh?
is so cool.
Oh,
He
I know, but
played
the
in a
piano's so much cooler than
mean,
the. Yeah.
He played in a jazz band.
Oh, well, piano's way cooler than a jazz band, right?
The drums.
There we go.
Um,
You play the
I-
drums?
And I stopped at 13 and I regret it.
Yeah, it's one of
Drums
those
are the
things.
coolest.
Went to a private
Imagine if your
orchestra.
parents had
I
a,
want drums.
all the things, even without instruments, all
I
the
can't.
things that you failed at from a little kid age.
Mm-hmm.
And then your parents are like, that's okay, we have fake Rachel who
Yep,
did
yep.
all those things
Yeah.
that she was supposed to do.
You would feel like a
That's so
constant
fucked
disappointment.
Up. Yeah, you
So
would.
that coupled with Amy's observations about the world that Nick kind of calls her out on,
Yeah.
including like, you know, when they moved to Missouri, Amy's like, oh, there's no black people here. And Nick was like, you don't have a black friend. Like, you had one black friend in New York. Like, that kind of shit where I'm like, I'm reading in the line, in between the lines with Amy as a human in that regard. On top of Nick being a douchebag, I think Nick is also just like a dumb guy, even though he thinks he's very smart.
Yeah.
I think Amy's an incredibly smart person,
Yeah.
but almost like diabolical.
Do you know what
Do
the
you know
difference
what I mean?
is between the two? I feel like Nick can actually address where he went wrong, like why he's not living up to
Because he
particular standard.
references his father all the time.
That-
He says like, I
and-
smile because I know that I'm so emotionally stunted because of my father, and the only good thing I ever got was from my mom, which to me says that Nick admits that the bad stuff he has is from his dad.
And
And also-
Amy's a little in denial.
She
Yeah.
will not admit when she's wrong, or that
Yeah.
she's done things bad, and she perceives and projects that she is a perfect person.
Marriage is the worst, you guys.
Oh, I mean, that's
the
part
worst.
of it too.
This book is like,
They're
oh,
in
it's the
love.
don't ever get married. It's the worst.
Yeah.
Hey,
Woo! Oh, boy.
B-Cop just got
Hey, boy.
married this year, and you're about to. I think part of me when I read Amy, I can feel some of the pressures and influences that she has. It's very different because I did not grow up in New York, and New York feels very alien to me. But I did grow up here, and I do sometimes catch myself if I go to where my boyfriend is from, which is a very small town, and it feels very different to me.
You go into Amy mode a little bit.
No,
Yeah.
I feel the part of me that grew up in Hollywood
Yes.
being an asshole in my head. Not about people, but just it's not even being an asshole. It's more just like it's so different from what I
Totally.
experienced that I'm like, this is so unlike what I
I'm the same way.
experienced.
I'm a city boy.
Yeah.
I'm a city boy, and anytime I go to a small town, whether it's my girlfriend's hometown or
Blows
some
my
other small,
mind a little
like
bit.
it will blow my mind. I will become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I will feel like, oh, thank God I grew up where I grew up, which was kind of like a suburb of like a city, which was down in San Diego. I have all of these feelings. They're
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
definitely swirling around, and a lot of it is judgmental shit.
Yeah.
A lot of it is absolutely judgmental shit, but a lot of it is also like, man, what would it be like for somebody to grow up in this small town? And then you meet people like that, and either they're awesome or shitty. They're
Yeah.
awesome or shitty. And if they're shitty, sometimes they go, well, maybe it's because of the environment this person grew up in.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's the
pick
same
up on
across
There's
the
a lot of
board. Yeah.
variables. I think
A
there's
lot
too
of-
many variables.
there's a lot of
There's
variables.
so many choices that you can make.
Yeah, it's
Even if
more
bad things happen,
complex
it's
than
still a
that.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think when she's talking about, and I think it's sad because I do feel like based on Margot's description of her or what she says to Nick, that she thinks that she's in love with the idea of him. She talks about her couple friends, and is going through sort of how hard it is when
Amy
you
or
know,
Go?
Amy, when
yeah.
you have all of your friends are either soulmates or have settled. And I don't know about you guys, but we're definitely, Amy's 32. We're
Yeah.
all very young. We're practically babies. But
No. Maud, what are you, 22,
yeah.
23?
No, 21 still.
21
Yeah.
still, that's right,
Gosh.
still.
go slow on the
We,
wine.
we
just,
started
you
this,
know.
we
Oh, yeah.
started
Wise and
this
Australian.
show and you couldn't even drink when we started the show a year
Yeah.
ago. And just last
tell
month, you finally
anyone.
turned 21.
But
So great.
Oop. Fake ID.
but some people who might be older than that, or for example, are in an age where people are getting married, people are having kids,
Yep,
and you have
same.
that pressure or not, or you know,
How many
everyone
weddings
reacts
have
to
you
it
all gone to this
differently.
year? How many weddings so far?
I just had one at the beginning of the
So
month.
I don't go to that many
two
only
this
because
month.
I have city friends, and I feel like my friends
Yeah.
are very jaded, and maybe that's from being a city, or there are more divorces, and I don't know. But
Oh, maybe. Okay,
a
so
lot
not
of my
that many?
friends had
It'll
divorced
happen soon.
parents.
It'll happen soon.
I've had a few,
Yeah.
but not my close friends. But she talks about when she runs into Nick again after he like completely blows her off, and she's talking about these terrible, shitty dates, and goes, and then you run into Nick Dunn on 7th Avenue as you're buying diced cantaloupe, and pow, you are known, you are recognized, the both of you. You both find the exact same things worth remembering, just one olive, though. You have the same rhythm, click, you just know each other. All of a sudden, you see reading in bed and waffles on Sunday and laughing at nothing and his mouth on yours. And it's so far beyond fine that you know you can never go back to fine. That fast, you think, oh, here's the rest of my life. It's finally arrived.
That's so romantic, but also
It's
super
not
messed
real.
up.
It's not
It's not
real.
real, but it's also very romantic.
understand-
That language is so great.
It's beautiful.
There was it's like they don't know anything about each other, but she's already seen their future.
She thinks about it when she first meets him of a year in the future, and she thinks he should run and I should run and I should feel bad. And those things are true, but they're also very natural, and I think all of us at some point have romanticized things like that. But the sad truth is, being with someone for any person for a long time, be it a friend,
Yeah.
a roommate,
Yeah.
a coworker, a person you're with, is hard because
a
people,
sibling, family
you
member,
don't
it's
know
hard.
what they're thinking, you don't know their experience, and even if they tell you, you'll never really
get it.
know.
Yep.
And if you're very smart or very cagey, I think we can say without getting into if people are
Spoiler.
manipulative or bad or anything, these two people are very cagey.
Yep.
super cagey.
She even, when her perspective, which I like because I'm very in my head, not in a as hopefully as much of an ass sometimes judgmental way as Amy, but the quiz thing where she's like, do you say these things that you're really thinking, or do you say the thing that makes you
should
seem
say,
that you
yeah.
should seem? And like I feel like I can very much understand that.
But
I
that's-
want to have a little bit of conversation while we have a second about the language of Nick when he first meets Amy and how he just describes her head,
Yeah.
Oh,
not
the
her
intro.
facial features, not her beauty or
back of her head that he
trait,
recognized.
Just and the way he talks about her head.
That he wanted to split it open
That's it.
and have her brains pour out.
Well,
like
that's-
sift through her brains.
that's the
Violently.
That's romantic,
opening-
but also messed up.
That's the opening
Opening
of
shot of the movie.
the movie. It's the opening paragraph in the book, and I will say that again, without spoiling anything, that sets the tone. That he did it
Mom,
again.
do you want to? What? What did I do? That's how I drink wine. What did I even do? It's normal. Golly.
But I mean, there is Gillian Flynn.
You did it.
Gillian Flynn is very if anything, I would say that having read all three of her books too, Gillian Flynn, her precision of language. It's a callback, y'all.
That's very nice.
Um,
Get a wrinkle
is-
on.
is beautiful. The way she describes everything in two different perspectives, I love, but there is a point here. There is a reason for everything that she's doing. There's a reason that he's withholding. There's a reason that the shot opens with that and you're like, well, that's sweet because knowing the back of your head is intimate, but also who
I
wants
didn't
to-
Serial
get that.
killer.
I didn't
I
get
know.
sweet at all.
No, I mean, you
Not even
can,
any-
but it's like,
any
I
side
did.
notes.
I did
violent.
get sweet, but it
I
is
didn't.
also very
Excessive.
violent because he was able to pick out the back of her head
No.
in the crowd. Which
don't
think
find that
is-
romantic.
I think it's romantic. Can you? But can you picture though Barack Obama saying like, "I was able to see Michelle's head. I knew the back of her head anywhere
no,
I'm
in any
Barack
crowd."
We had an
Obama is a
impersonation.
prince. Did you?
Yeah, he is.
Did you
Yes, I
see
did. Yes, I did. That's why I'm like, it could be romantic.
Did you
It
see
could be.
the video? It was.
But
it
it's
was
not.
Barack Obama and Michelle Obama's 25th wedding anniversary yesterday,
Mm.
and he interrupted. Who's she with? She was doing.
She was oh my gosh, she was with Shonda Rhimes.
Yeah, and they were doing an interview with Michelle Obama, and he interrupted for a video message
Hey
to
Michelle.
wish her a happy. I know. I saw it last night. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, it's so great.
Decent person.
Don't ever compare Obama
so
to
great.
Nick Dunn. He's a prince.
My wife is missing. It's time for me to smile.
But
Michelle,
so,
come home.
Everyone in the chat, let us know what you're thinking so far. Let us know if you're enjoying it. I really want to know really quick if we have time. What would be the most embarrassing, this is a really good question they put in there, what would be the most embarrassing diary entry from your youth? Did you guys keep a diary?
No.
No?
I started
Oh,
a
God,
couple
I
a
did.
few
I didn't have
times and
teddies.
didn't.
I didn't have stuffed animals.
Oh, I used to have to.
Maybe you're a psychopath,
Never
Maude.
mind, I'm
Maybe
not
you're a
gonna.
serial killer.
I used to.
Maybe-
I had a like collection of pals, and I would
Pals.
kiss them all goodnight, and then I would give an extra one to like my fave, and then I would feel bad and give the rest.
This is a 40-minute endeavor every night before you go to bed. Like, oh, that seems so
They
you,
probably need
Rachel.
to be
That's-
washed, but you wouldn't
yeah.
let your mum wash them because it would wash away the love. Embarrassing diary entry.
That's mine. I'm not saying another one.
I remember the thing that
I had an embarrassing one.
You go.
I think when I was 12, I tried to start a journal because boys had journals and girls had diaries. It's
Yeah.
I called mine a journal.
Okay, so
Look
Because
at
I,
I'm
Bound.
not like other.
I think I started one when I was 12 when I was like, the girl down the street, she's so pretty. I love her so much. She's so great. And then like it didn't end up working out, and then years later a buddy of mine found it and like, what's this? And I was like, I don't know, man. And then he started reading. He was like, hey, are you talking about that one girl? Because he was like in high school, and I was like, no, this is somebody else. But it was like
You don't even know her.
it
you
was
don't
like
know
very much her. Who cares?
There's
Yeah.
a girl from Canada.
Yeah. Oh man.
This is her first name and her last name, and this is the school she goes to. Nah, it's a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't put her name. I was purposely vague. That's what's embarrassing. Is I was like, dear diary, she saw me, like that kind of crap where you're
'Cause
like
you,
purposely vague.
As a young boy,
Were
were made
romantic.
to feel like being romantic and having those feelings was wrong, and you didn't want to say her name. 'cause it's
Probably.
embarrassing.
Or you thought that
But
someone
if-
would find it eventually and read it.
Maybe that's what it
and
was too.
destroy
Maybe
you
that's
with
what it
that
was too. Yep.
information.
Yeah. Mon, what was yours? What was your embarrassing
I think I
diary
actually had one
entry?
when I was 7, but I used to draw a lot in it. Just
how
everyone would have a
embarrassing.
love heart head. But I mean, my embarrassing story was, I had a shit of a brother. So I had a McDonald's.
The one who
birth-
just got married?
Yeah, I had a I roasted him in my speech. Trust me.
Yeah, man, I wish I could have seen that.
I
That'd
know.
have
I was
been
like,
great. Did anybody
you know
tape
what?
it?
I was
Somebody recorded it, right?
probably.
Share it. Put it online.
I was like, my brother said I could roast him, but I thought about it, and I was like, this is his wedding day, and I'm so chuffed that he, wanted me to speak for him. So I won't. I decided, no, I'm not going to roast him, and I actually did the rest of my speech. And everyone goes, oh my god, it's so funny how you said you wouldn't roast him, so you spent the whole speech roasting him. And I was like, I really did, and it was completely unintentional.
Good.
But I had a McDonald's birthday party. It was all the rage when you were kids because you got to play a lot of games. You had the
Wow.
ice cream
Did
cake.
you have the balls?
Yeah, ball pit.
Ball pit?
No, this one was
Play
pass the
place?
parcel. Do you know pass the parcel? So you know how you've got to pass parcel. And I've been to so many of these
No,
birthdays.
first of all, we call it mail here in the United States. A parcel? Is that what you're talking
the
about?
game is pass
like
the
a
parcel,
package.
where
I've
you've
never
got the
heard that.
gift and then you pass it around the circle, and then when the music stops, you unwrap a layer. And eventually, after all the
musical
layers,
presents?
there you go. After all of it, there's a prize. And
Pass
I've
the
been
parcel
to.
sounds so much better. Why wouldn't we call it that?
What do you call it? Musical presents?
No,
I
I mean
didn't
we
even
don't
have
call
that.
it that.
I've never
So
heard
this is
of
a
this.
traditional game that we
Okay.
have. And knowing that I knew that the birthday girl or boy would receive the prize at the end. That's just how it worked. Just so happened that the trainee McDonald's employer who was tasked to run my party did not care at all. And on the last one, I was going so slowly, and I knew she would stop it, and she didn't. So I passed it to my brother, and she goes, "Oh, whoops," and stopped it. And he was like, "Yoink, rip! I love it! My present! This is so much fun! I love my present! Look at it, but it's mine!" I burst into tears. But the thing was, I couldn't stop crying, to the point where I was hysterically chucking a tantrum and screaming in a fit. And my brother's like, I got sent to the car on my own birthday, and I watched people have my birthday party and eating my cake.
That's not embarrassing. That's so sad, and I want
That's
to.
really sad.
Kinda punch her.
I can one up you though. I can one up you.
Well-
Can I one up you with
Do we have
sadness? Or are we out of
time?
time? We're out of time.
Out of time.
I'll make you feel better, Maude. I was 5 years old. My mom decided I think we need religion in the house. I think we need religion because my parents
birthday.
And
both
let me guess, you never had a Christmas or a birthday your entire influential childhood.
Until
because
12
this
years
is the
old.
Third time you've told this story.
Have I really on this show?
Yeah.
We got wine back. Jehovah's Witness, y'all.
I listen.
Jehovah's
We
Witness.
got the
I
wine back.
listen.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I could tell the story actually word perfect, I think. At
Really?
this stage, yeah.
Go for it.
I wasn't until you were 13 that I think it happened back. But she didn't take all of the religious aspects. She kind of just took the shittest part.
yes, that's accurate.
And you got really
She
upset.
feels bad about it to this day. Anyway, that's it. That's
Y'all,
Hey!
we wish we had 5 hours to hang out with you
Yeah,
guys.
this is a lot to talk about. I really love this.
great. And I didn't even get to say my catchphrase, which was, Amy, girl,
Oh, she gone.
she gone, girl. She gone.
I can hear every time you
Amy,
say gone, girl. I'm like, I can picture
she
you
gone,
saying,
girl.
oh, she gone.
She gone, girl. She gone.
my
I got
God.
home today. My roommate, I was reading. My roommate showed up.
Knobloch.
My roommate Keller Knobloch, and he saw this book, and he was just like, "Girl, she gone, girl." That's all we would say to each other.
Yay!
well,
She gone. What's our homework,
please
Rachel?
read to page 206 in our book, which is this one right here. It's also Nick Dunn 7 Days Gone if you're listening to it or reading on the Kindle. Nick Dunn 7 Days Gone.
What chapter is that one?
That's just what the chapters are just
Yeah, there's no
called 5
chapters,
Days
it's
Gone.
just-
Yeah, so it's a little tricky, but
Got it.
hopefully you guys figure it out. We trust you. You're smart.
Halfway through.
That makes
It's
sense.
like halfway through the book. Yeah.
Oh, and just a quick audio. If you're listening on Audible, it's actually really, really good. The guy reads Nick's parts and a girl reads Amy's parts, and I'm all
like
about it.
that.
It's really
Love
great.
it.
Yep.
I know.
Love
I'm
it.
kind of tempted to switch over, but I'm bad with audiobooks. Don't forget, we're also on Goodreads. Search Alpha Book Club and come discuss with us. Send us your recommendations. If you're interested in joining us on Skype, on the show, just let us know on Twitter at Join Team Alpha with the hashtag Alpha Book Club. We'll get you all set up. It's so much fun. Come join us. Send us your book recommendations to @Join Team Alpha with the hashtag Alpha Book Club. We're checking it. If you guys want more books that we're reading, we're also reading other stuff at the same time. So talk to us on Twitter.
Yes, we
You
are.
can find us. You know where we are.
I'm up
we
to book
love
3
you
of
guys.
Dresden Files, guys.
Ooh, I need. Okay, let me know when you're up to
Just
like
finished-
the,
I'm about to
like
finish Full Moon.
6.
Okay.
And then I'll start them again.
Okay.
I'm still on book 1 of Star Trek 50th anniversary trilogy.
So cool, man.
Captain to Captain. It's really good. I'll keep you
Oh my
guys
God,
posted.
Captain to Captain.
It's
That's
super
a really cute
It's
name.
really great.
We love
So
you guys.
cool.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, she gone.
She gone, girl. Girl.
She gone.
She gone, girl.